This is a special briefing on Prime Minister's visit to Thailand for ASEAN-related summits. This is from 2nd to 4th November. I have with me Secretary East, Srimati Vijay Thakur Singh. She is joined by Joint Secretary Bangladesh, Maldives, and also Indo-Pacific, Vikram Doraiswamy, and Manish, who is Joint Secretary South. After the initial remarks by Secretary East, then we will open the floor to questions. Ma'am, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Prime Minister will be visiting Bangkok from 2nd to 4th November at the invitation of the Prime Minister of Thailand, His Excellency Prayut Chan-o-cha, and his visit is for the 16th ASEAN-India Summit, 14th East Asia Summit, the 3rd RCEP Summit, and related events. The ASEAN-related summits are an integral part of our diplomatic calendar. This will be Prime Minister Modi's 7th ASEAN-India Summit and 6th East Asia Summit. Last year, you would recall that in January, India had hosted the 25th anniversary commemorative summit of Indo-ASEAN, and in which all the 10 ASEAN leaders had participated. Then the Delhi Declaration was adopted, wherein it was agreed to further strengthen and deepen the ASEAN-India strategic partnership. Thereafter, in November last year, Prime Minister had in Singapore held, along with the ASEAN leaders, an informal India-ASEAN summit. So we had 2 engagements with the ASEAN last year. Let me run you through the program in Bangkok. Prime Minister will arrive in Bangkok on 2nd November evening, and his first engagement will be to address the Indian community at the National Indoor Stadium in Bangkok. The Indian community in Thailand is about 250,000, and at the Indian community meeting, the Prime Minister would be releasing a commemorative coin marking the 550th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and he would also be releasing a Thai translation of the Thirukkural, which is the great Tamil classic. On 3rd November, Prime Minister will participate in a business event. It is also the Golden Jubilee of the Aditya Birla Group in Thailand this year. Many of our reputed companies, Indian companies, have investments in Thailand, and Aditya Birla also has investments there, including in sectors like textile fabrics, chemicals, etc. Then on the second engagement of the Prime Minister would be to join in this ASEAN-India Summit, which he will co-chair with the Prime Minister of Thailand. The meeting will take stock of the progress made in the ASEAN-India relationship. Several initiatives of India are under implementation. For example, our offer and our commitment to offer 1,000 PhD scholarships for ASEAN students at IITs. Now that is actually under implementation. It was unveiled, and its implementation began in September this year, when both External Affairs Minister and the Minister for Human Resource Development had jointly launched this initiative. This has a budget of about 300 crores, 300 crore rupees, and if I may say, this is the largest human resource development initiative for ASEAN by India, and indeed by any of ASEAN's dialogue partners. So this is something which has been offered to the ASEAN countries. Then we are also working on the establishment of centers for excellence in software development and training in the CMLV countries, and this is at a budget of about $8.6 million, and that is also being implemented. We are in close consultation with our ASEAN partners to identify specific projects under our $1 billion line of credit for our ASEAN country partners. Strengthening ASEAN and ASEAN-led mechanisms, enhancing connectivity, whether it is sea, land, air, digital, people-to-people, deepening our economic partnership, enhancing cooperation in the digital domain, including cybersecurity, and improving maritime cooperation are some of the key themes of India-ASEAN cooperation. The next day, on 4th of November, Prime Minister has 3 important engagements. Prime Minister will attend a special lunch hosted by the Thai Prime Minister for the leaders of the East Asia participating countries, and the leaders in this platform will exchange views on progressing the global sustainable development agenda. The theme of this has been chosen by Thailand. In fact, Thailand, under its chairmanship, is promoting the theme Advancing Partnerships for Sustainability. So we are also working to support this theme and contributing to the discussions that are taking place. And if you look at it specifically, Thailand with us co-hosted the India-ASEAN workshop on blue economy in September this year, in which the focus of discussion was sustainable use of marine resources. So we are working on the sustainability concept with Thailand. Separately, we welcome the ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, which was put out by the ASEAN and adopted by the ASEAN earlier this year. We see many elements of convergence with our own Indo-Pacific approach, and we look forward to working with ASEAN partners on furthering our Indo-Pacific cooperation. The second engagement Prime Minister has on 4th of November is the 14th East Asia Summit. As you would know, that the East Asia Summit is a leaders-led platform, and in that, it is a platform where they hold discussions on various developments in the region, and it is also a confidence-building mechanism in the region. If you look at it, the East Asia Summit membership is a very broad membership. Its members account for 54% of the world's population and over 58% of the GDP. So it is a very important platform where leaders meet and discuss. Much of the success of this platform is also because of the central role that the ASEAN countries play in it, and we acknowledge that role that the ASEAN countries play. And we always call for the centrality of ASEAN in our Indo-Pacific approach. The agenda for the forthcoming East Asia Summit is to review the future direction of EAS cooperation and exchange views on regional and international issues. The final engagement of Prime Minister will be the RCEP Summit, where leaders will review the state of negotiations, which are ongoing in Bangkok currently and over the next few days. In addition, on the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister will also have a number of bilateral meetings which are being worked out. On 4th evening itself, Prime Minister will return to New Delhi.
Thank you, ma'am. I now open the floor to questions. Just a small suggestion that, please don't ask whether a meeting with a particular country has been fixed or not. As and when they are fixed, we will let you know. So instead of us saying no every time, we will share details as and when they are available. Parikshit.
The RCEP negotiations have been on, and we believe that the text of RCEP will have to be concluded next week. 25 chapters were under review. What is the status right now? Are we ready to join the RCEP bandwagon?
Thank you, Parikshit. Any other question on this aspect? Ji.
Is there a possibility of RCEP, the agreement going ahead without India?
Thank you.
Ma'am, if all our concerns are not addressed at RCEP, would we want the timeline to be shifted?
Pranay.
Ma'am, so far, how many of Indian concerns have been accommodated in the RCEP negotiation process, and what are the issues which India is still pursuing?
Thank you.
See, the RCEP negotiations have been going on for many years now, and India has participated constructively in these negotiations. We believe that RCEP represents a significant economic and trade opportunity for all partners. There are obviously some critical issues still outstanding, and efforts are being made to resolve them to provide a fair and a transparent trading environment. These issues are extremely important for our economy and the livelihood of our people. It is therefore imperative that these issues are resolved satisfactorily. India remains engaged to find a resolution of these issues, and we expect that there would be greater clarity in that regard after the ministerial talks and the RCEP summit.
Mike is up.
But in this connection, they say Indian farmers, they're going to agitate nationwide on 4th November. So what is the take of this about this decision in local and domestic farmers? They're going to completely, nationwide, this agitation is going to have.
You know, at this stage, the questions on RCEP has been answered. You know, if there are developments, you know, it is not possible to address specific questions. RCEP, the status of negotiation, that has been answered by Secretary East. If there are any further developments in the next few days, we will come up with a new statement. But there's nothing more to add at this stage. Yeah. Ranjit ji.
Yeah, any meeting of the quadrilateral group planned during the summit?
At the summit level, there is no quadrilateral.
Not at the summit level, any official level.
Yes, official level there will be a meeting.
Yeah, of course.
You said there are certain outstanding issues which are imperative to be addressed. They are very important for our economy. Which would be some of those important issues?
See, I don't want to get into that. As I mentioned to you, that the negotiations are going on at the moment and at this stage. So we would wait for the outcome of the negotiations. But as I mentioned to you, there are some critical issues which are still outstanding, and it is important to resolve them to provide a very fair and transparent trading environment.
Can you just repeat?
Meetings organized on an official level? Could you
Yes,
just elaborate
official
on that?
levels.
How many meetings, when?
I don't have the details, but it's on the sidelines. It's on the sideline. There's only one meeting.
Thank you.
On the same issue, RCEP, different? Either.
See, not only the negotiations, do you think RCEP can happen without India?
How can I speculate? The negotiations are going on.